All right, I'm Charlie Riley. The policy I will be trying to change today is legalizing sports betting in South Carolina specifically. I would be pushing this towards a senator or House member and try to get it to the House and eventually the Senate, then eventually get it legalized in the state. From an article called Sports Betting Legalization, How It Got Here by David Purdom. He mentioned that sports betting has been around in the United States since the early 1870s. Uh, it's been very prominent, especially nowadays. You have many apps coming up. It's not just casinos or boats that you go bet, play a slot machine. And I'm not trying to legalize betting in total. It's just sports betting because I don't think that sports betting is more skill than sitting there and pressing a button on a computer and watching a roulette wheel because that's all just luck. Um, but yes, the first thing I got introduced in was baseball. Like I said, in the 1870s in the United States. Another huge thing was horse racing was another huge way they bet. But I think legalizing sports betting would allow us to increase our tax revenue first off. Um, and it would allow us, especially our state needs more money in the budget for things like helping our schools, roads, just infrastructure in general, our economy. I think it would help a lot with boosting everything in that. But yes, the first thing I want to say is there is a bad look with sports betting, first off, for addiction. And I want to mention that a lot of these companies do realize that addiction is a big issue, probably the biggest issue when it comes to betting in general. But these companies do offer support and they try to actually help people that they see that are going down a bad path and they're leading down, spending money you don't have. But an article in the California Business Journal reports that 52% of bets placed last year in the US alone were placed illegally. So if you have 52% of bets being placed illegally in the United States, that is billions of dollars that are getting laundered illegally, and you're not getting any tax revenue. And also, these sites don't take money from your account, like straight from your bank account. They give you a balance and you can bet that balance no matter how much money you have in your bank account. You could bet $2,500 even if you have $20 in your bank account. And that's how it leads into this so-called hole. And it just is not a good way to get in. Last year alone, $140 billion was laundered through betting in the United States. And it is estimated that between 340 billion and 1.7 trillion dollars were unlawfully wagered last year. And that's just the US alone. Following up with more things about the businesses themselves with the addictions. There's an article called Sports Betting, a hugely popular multi-billion-dollar industry. It shows that if you legalize it, it won't cause people to get addicted, but if they do, then they do offer support, like I said, hotlines. They can even deactivate your account completely to make it where you can't place a bet for either a certain amount of time or completely. It depends on how serious they think the problem is with the specific person. And to explain some more of the tax revenue benefits, this is through June 30th of last year, $3 billion of revenue was totaled, and that's just from last year. And this number is exponentially getting bigger. There's people are estimating it could be $7 billion to $10 billion in revenue alone in a year, like year to year by 2025. And having that much money coming into our state alone could help with huge benefits with our economy. It could ease the burden on people that do need money. I wouldn't use betting as a good way to get money, but it is a way to get money. And like I said, it is skill-based, sports betting is, because a lot of people base their picks or bets on analytics, which is also a huge thing that's coming into play nowadays. And also another good thing about sports betting is that the companies that do um, have sports betting, they're not tied in with these specific sport organizations, like so as the MLB or NBA, NFL, they're all completely separate. So legalizing sports betting would not hurt this business in any way. If anything, it would bring attention to the sport and increase popularity, which is a problem that sports are having nowadays. Last year alone, the NBA finals were down 51% from the year before, which is ridiculous when you're talking about having 10 million people watching a game going to 5. And I think that allowing sports betting would intrigue people to watch the sport more and kind of intertwine both of them together to make both businesses more successful. It's the same thing as the World Series. 13.2 million viewers, down from 23 million. So it's about half of what it was the year before. It was reported that 47 million Americans have placed a bet on an NFL game this year alone, and the season's not even over. So that number could go way higher. But yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say about that. Anybody have any questions?
Um, are there any other adverse effects besides addiction to sports betting? Like, is it only illegal because of addiction, or are there other like factors that play into that?
Well, I think that's the main argument when it comes to politicians, and it's mostly older Southern politicians that don't want to get this passed, like Henry McMaster. Same thing with your topic. But yeah, I think that's usually what they try to say is we don't want to legalize it because then people are going to get addicted. But my case is it's going to happen anyways. I mean, literally everyone I've talked to has placed a bet on an illegal book about this topic. So it's like I don't see any other argument that you can make about this topic that would make it bad for someone.
If you think like say it gets legalized, would you want it to be through apps or like places you can go and put bets in?
I just think that nowadays too many people are doing it not for it not be regulated, because in the end that's how the addiction starts, is you just start betting money that you don't have. And like I said, these apps have regulations, they have hotlines, they can deactivate your account, stuff like that to help with problems. But yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say about that.
This might be a stupid question, but so like horse racing, people make bets on horses. And I mean, I'm assuming that's legal because I feel like everybody does that, but um is that similar to like what legal sports betting would be like? I don't really know how that's different.
So what makes betting not legal right now for companies is them taking a cut from the profits. So sports betting, like horses and stuff, like I'm assuming, are you talking about like between a friend, or like if you put money in a pot and then everybody wins it? I'm assuming.
Like when you go to the Derby or something, and
Yeah.
I don't even know. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm not sure. I haven't even looked if it is legal in Kentucky, like the Derby. But the reason that sports gambling isn't legal here is because, like I said, the house can't take a cut, which means that like for their profits. So, I mean, if you want to make a bet like friend to friend and say like, I'll put $100 on this game and you'll put $100 on it, but you can't like, it's between it's not through a corporation or an actual business.
Do you think that there should be like a limit on how much like you can like how much money you can bet with, or it should just be like however much you want?
Uh, I definitely think, I don't know if you could probably, I would say you could do a personal limit because some people are out here betting like hundreds of millions of dollars, but they have hundreds of $1,000,000 to bet. So if you want to bet that money, go ahead. Like it's not very smart to me, but I guess it is skill based. Analytics and stuff like that do show that I mean, it is skill based, so you can pick the right game based on analytics. But yeah, I think there should be a limit, especially on the apps, because you can literally just pull it up on your phone, do it any time of day. I think they should limit or maybe limit the amount of bets you place per day, to like limit the traffic on the app. Try to keep you off it a little bit.
You mentioned how betting could probably help with men's sports. Do you think the same could be reiterated for like women's sports and betting in those cases?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think any sport that you could allow this in would definitely bring traffic. It would push people to want to watch the game. Sports like I said, NBA, like I know this year they partnered with DraftKings and it really did help the viewership from last year when they didn't have any partnerships, or not last year, the year before that, because they did partner with them last year. But yeah, I do think it could help sports in general. I'm not going to put it on just men's or stuff like that or one sport. I think it'd help any sport.
So I think about places like Myrtle Beach and Hilton Head. Like those are pretty big like tourist attractions.
Mhm.
And so I would think like casino style gambling in like those kind of locations would be like super honestly really beneficial to the state. Do you think it would be easier to get something like that approved first before sports betting, or do you think sports betting would be the easier to get approved?
I think especially in a state like South Carolina, like we do have a lot of older Southern politicians that run in our House and Senate, and it's hard for them to wrap their head around legalizing betting because they've been grown up to say that like betting is terrible, like you should never do it. You're just going to get addicted and lose all your money, which can happen. But I think we should legalize sports betting first, just because you can go to them and show them facts that you could actually use statistics and analytics to make your decision on what you're going to put your money on, rather than, like I said, going up to a roulette wheel and picking a color and it's just completely based on chance. There's no skill involved with putting money on a roulette wheel. But yes, I do think after sports betting is legalized and they see the benefits that do come from it, I think they're going to push to make gambling legal all over the state.
Are there any other questions? Okay, I think you're good to stop your recording.